Kitten outside on a new adventure. What's out there, kitten? What you smelling? Smelling that Texas air? So I got to Winnie, and Winnie Stoll Park was a cool little spot to park out. Basically, you get a permit by giving your information at the county office. They take a photocopy of your ID, and you're good to go. So then you're allowed to stay for 3 nights. They give you a little thing to put on your rear view mirror, so or wherever, to display that yes, I have a permit to be here. But you can then, after those 3 nights, go to re-up it again. So you're allowed to stay for 2 permits lengths. But it was a great little spot. They had a playground there, which was pretty active on the daily. A lot of kids and stuff like that. There was also people would come to work out and exercise in the park, and people were taking walks all day. They had a whole big horse arena too. And so it's also, I guess they have a rice festival there every year in Winnie. So there was a setup for that too. But the horse arena was really cool, and they were there like daily, often, sometimes even later in the night. It'd be actually like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and I'd look out and the lights were on and horses were running around, and most of it is just people running their horses and getting out and practicing in a good local spot. So I didn't want to go and disturb anybody while they were doing their thing, but I did get some film of them. And then when I got there, there was a couple that had been camping out in a tent. And so eventually I went over and talked to them, and these guys are really cool. So Crystal and Zach are together, and they have been walking from Illinois. Basically, Zach lost his job. He got laid off, and they were coming up on not being able to, pay their rent or mortgage or whatever it was. And so they were like, all right, well, let's just take what we can carry and screw this. We're gone leaving. And that's what they did. And so they started in the fall and basically started walking and walked through some cold weather and finally got down to Winnie Stoll. And they, did some hitchhiking, but mostly walking. Have a really interesting story and set of stories. Definitely some cool people, but, essentially they're homeless at this point, you know what I mean? And they just said, we don't need any of that. Fortunately, they have, a bit of a regular income that comes in. But, they have a couple $100 every month and they're able to get by. And they, found these puppies that someone had just abandoned on the side of the road. And they're like, well, we can't leave these puppies. So fortunately, it also helps keep them, sane on the road when you're spending all that kind of time and you're lugging everything you carry, and it's just, day in, day out. It's nice to have some cuddle companions, and something that's distracting and lovable, and just gives unlimited love like puppies do. So that's really cool that they have a couple of pets to bring along, and apparently anyone who's worried about how these pets live, they live really well. So basically, when these guys are walking along, the dogs can jump up onto the carrier and just lay there and be carried, or they can walk if they're feeling energetic. These guys will go to a store to like get supplies, and people notice them, and the dogs, and will go in and do their own grocery shopping and come out with extra dog food for these puppies. They'll give Zach and Crystal the dog food and say, "Hey, here, we want to make sure that the puppies are well fed, and do you guys need anything?" And they're like, "Oh, thank you. This is more than enough. Thank you so much." And this will happen like a couple of times when they're in one spot sometimes. And so they've had to be like, "We can't carry any more dog food. We already have a lot of dog food that people have given us, and we just can't carry anymore." But so they have definitely had an easy time keeping these pets healthy and fed and all that stuff. So that's been good to hear. But they've just been walking south from Illinois. They told me some stories about they would get stopped and asked for ID by cops relatively frequently. And they didn't mind. They really have nothing to hide. But cops would take their IDs and check them and basically say, "Hey, here you go. You're fine. Have a good day." Or if they're stopped on the side of the road in a not necessarily safe or public area, cops would say, "Hey, what are you up to? What you doing here?" And they're like, "Hey, we're just friggin' resting because we're just walking." So most of the cops, they said, have been actually really friendly, and some of them have even given them rides down to like better areas to be, or have even put them up in a hotel for a night or two. And not just cops, but just regular people obviously have done that too. For example, so I left for the weekend to go spend a couple of days in Houston with my buddy Kyle. That was a cool time. So when I was gone, Zach and Crystal were actually given a few nights in a local motel because one of the locals had come by and said, "Oh, hey, you guys shouldn't have to stay in your tent and da-da-da, and it's, supposed to get kind of chilly. So here, let's set you up with, a room to stay in." And so she paid for 2 nights right up front. Super nice thing to do, right? So they're like, "Wow, this is awesome. Thank you so much. Really cool. That's super cool of you." And then she came to buy them another night. And they're like, "Wow, that's super awesome. Thank you so much." And then they got a knock on the door from a police officer. And they're like, "How can we help you?" And he's like, well, so this lady has reported that you stole her gun and her purse." And, guys, this is Texas. Gun laws, people are like, "Oh, people can do whatever they want with a gun in Texas." This is false. It is very easy for anyone to get a gun. This is very true. However, if you lose that gun, you are responsible for any crime that could be committed with that gun. So if someone steals your gun, shoots somebody else with it, you are also liable for murder. So they're just like, "Whoa, that's fucked. We did not steal anything from this woman. Feel free to search through all of our stuff." And they did, I guess. The police searched through all of their things because they were fine with it because they're like, "Dude, we got nothing to hide, and we certainly didn't do that. Why would we bite the hand that feeds us?" Literally, like, this woman has been super kind to us. Why would we do that? And so they're like, "Well, are you sure you didn't, sell it already?" And da-da-da. And they're like, "Who would we sell it?" Yeah, because we've been making all these contacts with all these criminals in your little town. Like, what? Like, come on. So, basically the cops are like, "All right, well, there's no evidence to press anything against you guys, so, you're fine, and thank you for letting us do that, and we apologize for the inconvenience." And so they went, and after that, they're like, "All right, well, screw this. We're not staying in, this hotel or motel to get harassed by this woman." So they went back to the park. And so they came back, I think, the day after I got back. And so I was talking to them, and they were telling me the story. And I guess later that day, they were harassed by the husband or one of the friends of this woman, or both. I think both. Basically, a friend came over and seemed kind of drunk and was like, "Hey, give it the fucking gun back." And then I guess somebody else, the husband, came over and was like, "Hey, are you sure? Well, we've been, and just trying to be a jackass but not being directly harassing." So anyway, they went back to the cops and they're like, "Yo, these guys are like harassing us and like, what's going on with the case?" And they're like, we didn't even file the case because she couldn't prove she didn't lose it. So she needs to be able to have some sort of reliability to be able to say, no, the gun was definitely in this place. You're responsible for your weapon. If you don't know where it was when it disappeared, then you can't claim it was stolen. You need to be responsible. You're supposed to know where your weapon is at all times. So they were like, she can't prove that she didn't lose it. She didn't know exactly where it was. So, we couldn't even file a case. Now there's a case where she has to find her gun, because if she doesn't find her gun and if she claims it lost, she's still liable for any crime that could be committed with her weapon. So now she's opened up a whole Pandora's box for herself. Meanwhile, these guys, they're like, well, we're going to hang out for the rest of the week. He's trying to make every buck he can so that they can just keep living, which is awesome. And it's great that they're able to maintain a comfortable for them lifestyle with a minimal budget. And people think that's not possible, and it really is. Like, they are saving up some money. They have money to try and buy a vehicle, but they're trying to figure out, they want to make a smart choice with this money. So they're not just blowing it on whatever they can spend it on. They're not spending it on hotel rooms every night so they can sleep in a bed. They're fine to sleep in a tent on an air mattress. So that was Winnie Stole Park. What, Kitten? What? Hmm? Hey gang, this is the part of the video where I get to tell you about my awesome sponsor, Tasker Payment Gateways. So, have you ever wondered, how do people sell things like grinders or bongs or other head shop items or tactical and survival gear or e-cigs, vape pens, tobacco or cigars? Well, there's a proper way to sell all of these products online, and there's an improper way to do it. So basically, if you go to Shopify and you sign up for their regular e-commerce program to make a website and a little shop for yourself, and you start selling items like bongs or tactical items or cigars or things like that, they're gonna shut you down. The reason is because those items go against their prohibited use policies. So once they discover that you're selling those items, they're going to shut you down. What Tasker Payment Gateways does is helps connect you with the proper merchant account so that you can connect to a payment gateway that allows those sales to be processed. And you can even do so on platforms like Shopify or Wix or Weebly or WooCommerce and many other e-commerce platforms out there. So Tasker Payment Gateways is basically the information source that allows you to connect to the proper people to open the right account so that you can use the right payment gateway in combination with the right shopping cart to sell these items online. Now that might sound complicated, but essentially it's very straightforward, it's very simple, you just have to go through the right process to do it. So call Tasker Payment Gateways or visit TaskerPaymentGateways.com today. Alright, so then from Winnie Park, the first time I left, I went to visit my friend Kyle, who I went to high school with, and he actually only went to that school for like a year, but so we stayed in touch through Facebook and stuff since then. He invited me over for the weekend to meet his family and all that, and that was really cool. Let me park in his driveway and plug it into the house and all that, so that was awesome. So he helped me replace the setup for the refrigerator so that it actually had a solid floor to rest on. Before, I had 2x4s that I had crossed over so that the front and the back of the refrigerator, the feet had something to sit on. But the floor that was underneath it wasn't really a floor so much as it was just this cork board thing, and it was not going to support the weight of the refrigerator. And I knew that as soon as I removed the old refrigerator, which was mounted, so didn't have to worry about that floor. So he helped me fix that all up, and we cut a piece of wood that fits in there really nicely, and it's great. So now the refrigerator is in a permanent kind of position, and all I have to do is lift up the ratchet strap that I have going across it so it doesn't move while the RV is moving. Or really, so it doesn't lean forward. It's not going to slide anywhere, but it might lean over pretty easily. So he helped me do that, and then I took off a couple days later, and apparently he got a letter from his HOA saying, because, these guys live in it's a small, tight-knit cookie-cutter house development. And, a cool little spot. But, there are rules. And so apparently having me in the driveway was against the rules. And next time it happened, they were going to be fine. But I left before they even got the warning. So, when I called to see if I could swing by there again, they're like, well, and I was like, oh, no worries. So I just ended up, instead of doing that, I just kind of moved on, which was fine. But it was really cool to see him. Super awesome of him to help me with the refrigerator project. And he gave me some ideas for the living room setup as well. So then I moved on.